Book 1, Part 2, Chapter 4 and 5. The Pavlograd hussars were stationed 2 miles from Brno, the squadron in which Nikolai Rostov was serving as a cadet. On the 8th of October, the day when the headquarters all was in turmoil over the news of Mack's defeat, the camp life of the officers in this squadron was quietly proceeding as usual. And so we switch to this little narrative about Nikolai Rostov. So we have Nikolai Rostov here near Brno. We also have Prince Andrei there. We also know Dolokhov is there. And these are all young men not really acquainted with each other, by the way, even though these all have appeared in the story. They've sort of appeared apart. These are not acquaintances or friends, but they're all, due to the war and being part of the army, are gathering near Brno. And we get this little narrative of Nikolai as part of the hussars, and it's just life as usual. A little story of his captain playing cards at night, coming back. Nikolai and him appear to be friends, and he kind of counts his losses for his Captain Denisov, and puts the money under the pillow. And it happens that this other fellow comes in, and his name is Telyanin. He ends up stealing the money, and Denisov wants to know where it is. And this is like theft amongst kind of comrades. This is kind of like a brothers in arms kind of thing. And so there's, not only do you have this sort of romantic idea of being part of the army and what honor is and so on that Nikolai brings to it, there's also camaraderie of these brothers in arms. And there's kind of not just the normal kind of way of behavior, but sort of rules of thumb and codes of conduct, maybe is the right word. And this is really upsetting to Nikolai for a number of reasons. One, because he's just shocked that this gentleman, this lieutenant, would steal this money, which he then reacquires. And with Nikolai, here's a case, here's a story, once again, of someone being right, but being wrong at the same time. And so this lieutenant steals this money, they reacquire it, and Nikolai's just on edge about this whole situation. And then apparently, he was even brought to tears. My God, he said, with tears in his eyes, how could you do it? He's confronting Telyanin. So this is like DEFCON level 5 or whatever, high level of shock and dismay and confusion for Nikolai. And so he's right in kind of that Telyanin is in the wrong, but it so happens he sort of can't let it go, and it sort of spills out, and we don't see all the conversations, but throughout the day, interacting with Denisov and other people, Nikolai's conveying his dismay and displeasure and judgment on Telyanin for having sort of crossed this line. And he's telling the truth, but there's this interesting interplay that takes place at Denisov's quarters amongst the officers later. Not Telyanin isn't there, but Denisov there, Nikolai's there, and these other officers. And these other officers are painting this picture of so Nikolai, he's part of this, but he's a count. He is the son of a count, and so he has a little bit of a status among them. And they paint this picture saying, hey man, you're kind of bad-mouthing our regiment, you're accusing someone of stealing, and this is all true, but you're kind of making this big show of it. And it's true the guy was in the wrong, but you can't just trash talk the regiment like that, because this is we're going to be here long before you leave. You're going to get promoted and move on, and we're going to be here. We're going to be here maybe for years of our lives. This is our life here. And so there's this kind of funny situation where you see this in people. So Nikolai's in the right in everything he's saying. They're asking him to apologize, not to even Telyanin, but to the colonel of the regiment, because Nikolai's kind of poor talk of this guy is kind of, it's kind of a morale drain. And the unity, you know, this is one of the main fuels or critical ingredients, especially of a regiment or a group of young men fighting. You know, they need to be unified. And so anyone kind of undermining that, it's the team that matters above any individual's sort of moral right or whatever. And Nikolai is just grating against this. They're asking him to apologize to the colonel for kind of making a big deal out of this, and he won't do it. It's kind of like it's a matter of honor for him. So he has these conflicting things in his mind, these ideas of virtue, this ideas of honor, this idea of, you know, I'm a trustworthy guy, and you're wanting me to apologize? This makes no sense. And so he's right. He's absolutely right in everything he says. So he's right, but he's wrong, because it's like, what does it matter, man? Just there's another context, there's a different story going on of which all these other guys see, and it's kind of like they're sort of not disagreeing with him about what he's saying, but what they care about is the functioning of the team, the functioning of the regiment. And this is a very, it's kind of a tricky thing to talk about, because you're talking about someone being right and wrong at the same time. And it's a real piece of enlightenment for someone to be right and yet to go against that conviction for the sake of some other greater good, you might say, or for the sake of some peace, or for the sake of some functionality. And so your identity is not so compromised that you're able to do the opposite, or change your mind, or do a different behavior that maybe goes against some of your virtues. And this is something Nikolai is just having a difficult time doing. We see the similar thing in Prince Andrei. It's kind of tied up in an identity that is inhibiting him. We see the similar thing in his father, and in Prince Andrei's sister, and in other characters. And I just like the nuance to how it's written here. And even Denisov, which seems to be a close friend, he's the captain of this group of hussars of which Nikolai is a part of. He's the captain, and he seems to have befriended Nikolai, so he's empathetic with Nikolai quite a bit. And yet he himself says, Nikolai, yeah, you're in the wrong here. And again, it's not a matter of the kind of the letter of the law, but it's just being aware of the team. And there's these very complex dynamics of what kind of this pragmatic virtue, you might say. Maybe that's a way to phrase it. There's virtue and there's pragmatic virtue. It's just kind of like what actually is going to be for the best interest of something. And quite often that's not following some strict virtue or law or guideline. And so this is just reinforcing our vision of who Nikolai is. I mean, like he's a very honorable guy. You want him to, this is the kind of people you want on your team. Very trustworthy kind of guy. In all other respects, a tremendous team player, but he's stuck kind of between a rock and a hard place, between his idea of honor and virtue and what is true and good, and the practicalities of seeing that through and just not being able to absorb an injustice just because it just doesn't make sense in his brain, how to add that all up. And that's kind of what these two chapters are. And he says here, they're asking him, just apologize to the colonel. We don't need this mess, because the one guy says here, if we bring this offer to trial and besmirch the whole regiment, you want us to disgrace the whole regiment because of one scoundrel? And so you can see everyone else is sort of aware of, there's a truth to sort of bringing Telyanin to justice, but there's these additional unwanted consequences that they don't see as being beneficial. And even Denisov sees this, they all plead with Nikolai to kind of let it go. And then anyway, it's kind of this soap opera drama going on, Give a group of young men, people in the army, they're idle. What do they'll do? They find ways to get into trouble, to fight, there's something's going to go awry. And this is sort of what's happening here. Just kind of the everydayness, just as it was introduced, The general, was just getting this thing from Kutuzov. General Mack had come. The Austrians were defeated. This high-level stuff's going on. And what's going on? The everydayness of the regiment and the hussars. Well, they're just squabbling and getting themselves into trouble and disagreement and conflict. And then, right in the midst of this, someone comes into the room with the news. Gentlemen, we're going to the action. Mack has surrendered. And so this is kind of like a jolt, a shock. And one guy says, well, thank God we've been sitting here too long. So it's kind of like, let's get the hell out of here. This is like, dealing with these things. It's almost like a get out of jail free card. Let's just, we can just put this behind us and we have this other thing to do. So it's kind of a funny thing. So just a little bit of coloring. I didn't talk too much about Denisov, but he's kind of a likable character as well. But just fleshing out Rostov. So we have the hussars there. We have Prince Andrei with General Kutuzov. Dolokhov may be a little bit more of a minor character, but he keeps showing up. He's nearby in the infantry as well.